This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning and welcome to a glorious sunrise safari here from the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. There are elephants there. I can hear monkeys alarming. It promises to be a very exciting morning. Right, my name is James Henry. On camera we've got Niels this morning, and it's a slightly frenetic beginning because although we've got these elephants, there were reports of a leopard on our dam camera, which is the camera well in front of our dam, funnily enough. And I can now hear monkeys alarm calling over there. So we're going to drive back there, leave these elephants and maybe come back to them later. Please ask us any questions you'd like to using the email address kidquestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And for the first 45 minutes, only if you are under the ages of 18, may you ask us any questions. The rest of you will just have to button your lips and keep yourselves in control before sending through your questions 45 minutes from now. It's not particularly cold this morning. It's definitely been colder, but I really want to see a leopard, and so we're going to drive with a great haste back towards the dam cam and see if we don't get lucky there. Miss Robertson's class in Dubai is watching us. Of course, yes, the weeks it's slightly different there in the Middle East, so it's a normal weekday for you, isn't it, on Sundays? So you're all in class. Welcome. Lovely to have you with us. I hope we find you some interesting stuff. Let's now go down to Maputoland and the northern KwaZulu-Natal coast, well, just inland from the coast to the St. Lucia region, where Damon is waiting at and beyond Pinder to say hello.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. My name is Damon, and behind the camera we've got Marcel this morning. And can you believe it? We managed to find a whole bunch of little lion cubs with their mum. Look at that. So there goes mum. So if you were watching yesterday, it's the same 2 lionesses and the 5 little cubs that were up high on the mountain. They've decided to come down. The mothers look like they're on the move, perhaps looking for something to eat. And the little cubs are following along. So, oh, look at them playing in front of us. There was a big game going on there. It's quite a chilly morning, so with that low temperature, the adult lionesses are quite active and playful. They've been playing with the cubs, playing with each other, using the cool of the morning to move about. Look at that little youngster, worrying if it's missing out on any of the fun. You can just hear the soft calls of one of the lionesses. She's calling to her little youngster, saying, "Come on, it's time to go." I don't know if you can hear that. There's just a gentle... Oh. There he goes. She's calling to him. Mom is calling to the little one, and Mom should come into shot now. There we go. But look at all those little youngsters all around her. Is that not just the cutest thing? Oh. See how alert Mom is? Oh, look at that! The girl just bounced on her mom's back. So look what those little cubs are doing, jumping on Mom's back. That's exactly the movement or the motions that they'll go through one day when they are hunting big dangerous prey like buffaloes and zebras and giraffes. This is not just the most precious thing. This is not just the most precious thing, everyone. Now, we've got to be quite careful with these youngsters. They are very small. Lisa, you saying that these cubs look like they're in training? Absolutely, Lisa. Everything that they do in terms of their play for now is going to be preparing them for one day when they're big like their mothers and they've got to catch their own food. There goes Mum. So these two lionesses off together with their 5 little youngsters. We've spoken about them quite a few times before and how they kind of left the rest of their pride to have their babies, and they still haven't joined up with the rest of the lionesses. We think that it might be because in the main pride there are 4 sub-adult lions, so almost, if you will, teenage lions, who are very boisterous and can be very rough. And so these lionesses don't want to have their tiny little cubs exposed to that just yet. But I'm sure pretty soon they'll all join up together and then they'll all be one pride once more. Right, they've gone behind those bushes. We're going to see if we can try and loop around just to the front here and then try and get another view for you. Maternal.
Sorry about that. A couple of technical glitches early on in the morning. We're still driving around trying to find our leopard. I can hear the monkeys alarming. And we've come back onto the clearings just outside our camp. The monkey's not going crazy. It's just kind of giving the odd shout, which makes me think that it's got a long distance view of this leopard. Lots of impala here, none of them saying anything whatever. So we'll speed around this side, basically back to our camp at this stage. Kayla, we don't see much swinging from branch to branch very often here. But there are monkeys that can do that, and the most classic example is a spider monkey. Spider monkeys are very good at going from branch to branch. The monkeys we have here are very good at climbing, but they tend to jump. They don't do that classical swinging from branch to branch. That's more the spider monkeys, which we don't get here. Let's see if we can still hear the monkeys. The monkeys have stopped shouting now. There's a leopard somewhere here. But where is anyone's guess at this stage? Let's quickly drive down here. Maybe it's come right close to our camp again. There are no tracks here. And then there's a waterhole not far from our camp which we can go to. All right, let's go back to Pinda. Apparently Damon sorted out his technical problems.
Welcome back, everyone. We've managed to catch up to these lionesses and their little youngsters. Now, Again, apologies for that. We seem to have lost signal in the middle of my answering your question, Matteo. You were asking how often these little lions will have to eat. Matteo, I was saying that at this age, we estimate these lion cubs to be a little bit over, or kind of between 3, maybe closer to 4 months old. And at this age, they're going to be feeding mainly on meat that their mothers kill for them. They might still supplement their diet with a bit of milk, in which case the milk they'll probably get a couple of times a day. But in terms of meat, their mothers are only going to be killing prey, if they're able to fill their bellies, that is, every 2 or 3 days, depending on how big the animal is that they kill. Look at that little youngster, and then jumping up on mum's back again. Look at how playful they are. And look at how alert and vigilant that lioness is. See how she's scanning around, looking for any signs of potential prey. Oh, bless you. Oh, look at that. Okay, so there's a question about which lions these are and which pride they belong to. So we've shown you the mountain pride quite a few times, the 2 lionesses with the 4 sub-adults. And these 2 lionesses and the 5 youngsters belong to the same pride. They just, as I was saying earlier, haven't rejoined with the rest of their family because of them having those young cubs. And then we suspect that they're just a bit kind of apprehensive about bringing these 5 youngsters into the rest of the pride with those boisterous sub-adults. But I'm pretty sure now, seeing how these cubs are moving around and how playful they are, it's not going to be long before the whole pride reunites. And then it's going to be, do my maths quickly, 13 lions in the pride. I think that'll be quite fun to see. Alright, we're going to try and catch up to these little lions, and hopefully we'll have more amazing footage for you when you come back.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to And Beyond Ngala. My name is Bunny, and I have got Owen behind me as a cameraman for the day, and we have just been hearing sounds for the morning of the pride, and we just got to them. They are still up and active. It's still nice and early in the morning. We will spend most of the time just following them and see what they are about to do for the day. So quite interesting. I haven't seen all of them, so I haven't seen the Ross males yet, but it looks like most of the lionesses and the cubs are here. It's a lion calling on a distance, which is why that young female reacted and looked back that way. Looks like they're quite full of energy this morning. They just walked away from a buffalo carcass that they had yesterday. They finished that overnight. Went and checked that spot. There's absolutely nothing left. There's just vultures, which are most likely to finish whatever is left behind. So they're most likely to be moving away. The direction they're heading towards, they might go all the way down towards the river to go lie down there for a day and start digesting. Jenna, in the reserve, we've got a lot of water holes, maybe up to about 7 or between 7 and 9, I think. Majority of them are man-made, and they are being pumped. We're using underground boreholes to pump them just to keep the water for the animals to. However, there are still some water in the riverbed that's already dried, so there are some puddles left still. So sometimes they have to move quite a distance to get to them, but they're nicely spread out throughout the reserve. Look at how cute are those 2 little cubs walking towards us right now. Look at how tiny those cubs are. One is starting to practice to hunt. He's checking looking at the francolins that are walking behind them. It looks like the skill of hunting needs to be practiced from a very early age on his side right now. Something he's definitely have not done, but possibly he might have watched the adults do it. One thing they all have on their side that makes them even braver is the fact that they know that they can just take off and fly should that line start going for them. However, that sometimes backfires. So look at how tiny those things are walking next to the mother there. Every now and again, not catching up speed-wise, trying to run and catch up with the rest of the pride. They're right at the back of the pride. Everybody else has already walked past us, but they definitely will be able to find them. I don't think they're too far behind us. That is cute. Rafa, yes, these two that you see on the screen now, these are the youngest cubs which are not white, but that is definitely a young female white line. The young white male one has already walked further down with the rest of the pride. Stay tuned, we will be able to catch up with them for you to be able to see Rafa. Cool, we're gonna start driving and try and catch up and see if we can go stop ahead of them again and let them walk towards us. It is a beautiful morning indeed. It's not as cold as it has been in the next few days. If you look a little bit on the horizon, it's quite a clear morning. You can be able to see the beautiful sun shining onto the mountains. Things are feeling nice and fresh, but not too bad. Lions are still active, birds are still calling. It is a beautiful morning indeed. So we're going to stick up with these lines for a while and see where they take us. We should be able to catch up with you at some stage today. Looks like it's going to be a very exciting morning.
We're still with our little lion cubs, and the two mothers have stopped. They're busy listening to some impalas that were alarm calling, and this has given the cubs the perfect opportunity to start playing. Just with that bit of a break in the pace. And they've been chasing each other around and pouncing on each other, stalking each other. Look at that. They're always watching their mothers very carefully. As soon as their moms get out of sight or start to move a little bit away, they get up and start to follow them. This is absolutely adorable, everybody. I can't believe that these little lions have finally come down from the mountain. And to my knowledge, this is the first time that we've actually been able to, or that any of us have actually been able to follow these cubs for this amount of time. And for that reason, it's very important that we be as sensitive with them as possible in terms of the vehicle. Obviously, the vehicle's a very big, scary object, so we're giving them a lot of space. We're watching their behavior very carefully. We don't want them to have any reason to be afraid of the vehicle. Right, I'm just going to move us a little bit further forward, and we'll try and get another view of them from that tree over there. Oh, look at that, everybody. Savannah, you are 10 years old, and you wanting to know how long these cubs will stay with their mother, Savannah. So, Savannah, of these 5 cubs, we're not sure how many are males, how many are females, and that will determine how long they spend with their mother, Savannah. So, if all the females, they will spend their entire lives in this pride, so with their mothers. They might move away. There are some times when lionesses will leave their pride, but it's not very often that happens. With the male Savannah, they will only stay with their pride for about 2, maybe 2.5 years. And then their fathers or their father and uncle will chase them out of the pride to force them to go somewhere else and look for a pride of their own. How cute is that little line of lion cubs? It looks like they're starting to see how they're starting to trudge a little bit. Their heads are hanging down a bit. They've lost their spring in their step that they had earlier. Obviously getting a little bit tired. Shame. It's a long walk when your legs are that short. And you've got such big paws to pick up and carry over the ground. Look. See, really at this age, they're stopping to sniff things, taking in the world around them. Okay, let's try for another view. Alright, let's try and get one more view of these lions. And in the meantime, we'll send you across to Mike, who wants to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Pride Lands, and we are watching some beautiful impala rams underneath this gorgeous African sunrise. Golden light, a little bit of dust in the air from the wind last night. Really, really spectacular. What a wonderful way to spend a morning, I think. My name's Mike, and behind the camera we've got Gerrit, and we are delighted to have you here as we go out on our safaris and see what we can find in this beautiful place. There's elephants not so far, we can hear them, and they are maybe heading towards a big rocky ridge, and we're going to try and see if we can find them a little bit later. And last night we had a report of a drag mark, so maybe a leopard caught something in the night and dragged it across a drainage line. So we're going to go and look in that area as well. But these impalas for now are just captivating our attention just because this light is so gorgeous. You know, sometimes when it's been really, really windy at night, we get this beautiful, soft, glowing sunrise, and it really captures us. So these impalas are making the most of a nice warm morning. Actually, it's very warm this morning compared to what we had before. We were very surprised with all the wind. And so these impalas are out feeding as early as possible. Normally by now they would just be sitting huddled tight trying to stay warm. And these ones can start their daily routine, get a jump start on the day. What do they say? The early bird catches the worm. In this case, the early impala gets the tastiest grass. And you can really see them. All of them are males. I don't know if you can notice they've got gorgeous curved horns. Oh, hi. Stealing the shot. This gorgeous impala rams with their big horns, these are all adult males, and their horns are fully formed. So right now it's not, it's in winter time, so they're no longer chasing any of the ladies. So they can all group together and just stay safe together. See that? When one of them heard something, put its head up real quick, and they all have a little bit of a look around just to make sure everything is safe. It's a fairly open area, so they're pretty comfortable. You see most of them have their heads down. plenty of eyes and ears to spot the danger. So Naila has asked, what do gazelles eat, and are these gazelles? Naila, you are almost correct. These are very closely related to the gazelles. Gazelles are much smaller. So we've got a gazelle in South Africa called a springbok, and they have a very similar diet to these impala, which are antelope. They're all very, very similar with what we call hoofs that are split into two pieces, cloven hoofs, and very similar, eating grass and little forbs or herbs, small green plants. Some might even eat leaves. So these impalas are mixed feeders. So they eat both leaves and grasses, depending on what is most nutritious at that time of year, which tastiest. So right now, everything is getting quite dry, so you'll find that they might try and eat some of the leaves. Right now, they've found, obviously, a tasty patch of grass, so they're busy eating the grass. They've just come from what we call a drainage line. So, Naila, the drainage line is a place where water flows into the dams and rivers, and there it's a little bit greener, so they might have been feeding on some of the green leaves. But right now they're heading out into the open to catch the sun rays and become warmer. So yeah, not gazelles, but antelope. So other gazelles that you might see on TV quite famously are the Thompson's gazelles of East Africa, and of course the springboks, which are the national animal of South Africa. That's very fantastic. That's a good link, though. It's well recognized that they're very similar. And if you can hear in the background the dawn chorus happening, we've got some crested francolin making a heck of a racket, just letting everyone else know that they are still here, they've made it through the night, they're still looking after that particular patch. The impalas also have been making a lot of noise until recently, roaring and snorting, telling all the other males about their territory. But as you see, these are all males, and they're all very relaxed with each other. They're not bothered anymore. No longer time for chasing the ladies. Farah, you are right. I mean, it's a great observation. The light is awesome, and that's why we stopped here, because we just thought, wow, it's not often that we get to see this. This is in the wintertime, maybe just a couple of times. Right, well, we're going to send you off to James at Djuma, who's apparently very cold, whilst we enjoy this lovely warm light.
Not really, but it's definitely not as cold as it has been. Not much to report here. I found one leopard track, totally opposite direction from where the dam cam had said the leopard had gone. So we squizzed around there. Monkeys came down the trees and started feeding, so they can't see any leopard anymore. And so I guess we're into ye olde search mode now. We'll try and find our leopard or any other leopard. In the meantime, no, they're not going to sit still. I was going to look at some birds, some francolins. They have all scuttled into the grasses. But it's a lovely morning, I must say. I agree with Mike. I don't think it's going to be cold today. I think it's going to be very pleasant. It's nice and crisp. We'll do one more turn past the clearings around camp, then probably head towards the east. Have we ever thought about doing what, Safari Kitty? What? Oh, putting cardboard boxes out because cats like cardboard boxes. No, I haven't thought about doing that. Maybe we should. Maybe it's as simple as that. Imagine we just popped a couple of cardboard boxes around in central areas of Djuma and just went to check those every day and upped our success rate from about, I don't know, how often do we see leopards, say 60% of the drives, up to 90%. Imagine it was as simple as cardboard boxes. That would be hilarious. We've got some squirrels up in that tree there, Niels. Basically just above my fingers. There we are. There is a squirrel. It has a friend there, but the friend is a bit shyer. Now that squirrel is very much enjoying the sun. Remember that the smaller you are, the colder you're likely to get. And that's why squirrels live in tree holes where they're insulated and in groups where they can live off each other's body heat. Typically subdued winter dawn chorus. Squirrel Emma, who's directing today, says, looks like it's seen some things. I think it looks like it's got a hangover myself. I think it went too hard at the club last night. He's enjoying the sound of the dawn chorus. And will probably shortly go back inside to have his morning cappuccino and read the Sunday broadsheet. Hopefully it will be accompanied by a delicious croissant. No alarm calling. Nothing shouting at us or shouting about a predator, which I suppose is appropriate for a Sunday morning. I mean, you don't want animals panicked at the thought of meeting a leopard on a day when they should be having a bit of a holiday. I always mention things like cappuccinos and croissant. I mean, for me, there's no better way to start a day than with a good fresh croissant and a good cup of coffee. I had a tennis biscuit instead this morning. Those of you who don't know what a tennis biscuit is, it is a commercially available sort of coconut and wheat abomination. Let's carry on. Salting Detective, you may be entirely correct that they're not into croissant but muffins or scones. Yes, that's possible. You can see a squirrel with a jam scone, absolutely.
I think the thought of a pastry is quite nice in this chilly morning. But we've unfortunately had to leave our lions, their little ones. They went down into a very rocky area where unfortunately we can't follow them with a vehicle. Now it did seem like they were quite interested in a herd of impala around there. So maybe we'll come past again a little bit later in the morning and see if maybe they've come out, or maybe they're lying up on the rocks with the sun nice and warm on their bodies. For now, we're going to make our way over the mountains in the distance. We're going to go and explore some open grasslands, go see if we can find some rhinos, or maybe if we're very lucky, even a cheetah. Now, with it being quite chilly, quite cold and early in the morning still, these rhinos that we're looking for are probably going to be in some pretty thick bush trying to get out of this chilly wind. And so we'll go and check some big guarri thickets that are growing around in those grasslands. And I'm sure with the sun having now come up over my shoulder, it shouldn't be too long before those rhinos start to come out and feed about. Both the white and the black rhino, if we're lucky. Again, oh, here's some impala just off to the right here. Ooh. That one got a bit of a fright when his compadre looked like he was lunging at him, but I think he was just changing from one little bush to the other on which he was feeding. Now see how all of these impalas have all got horns. See how they're all pretty short horns. So this looks like a bachelor herd of young impala rams that have been cast out from the herd more than likely a couple of weeks ago or a few months ago during the rutting season. And so now all of these young males are sticking together for safety in numbers. And one day when they're big enough, they'll be able to go and challenge another impala ram for a harem of their own. I mentioned that it was warming up a little bit. Let's have a look through our binoculars, or in your case, we'll ask Marcel to zoom in onto the back of that one on the far right. Can you see how the hairs are all standing up on end? And the coat almost looks quite ruffled, like he's just had a wash. And if you've got dogs or cats at home, you'll know that look from when you've given your cat or your dog a bath and all of their hairs are standing up. And that's to help this impala to keep warm in this chilly wind. And that's what we were saying with these rhinos, how in the chilly weather they'll probably be sheltering from the wind a little bit. These impala are just making do with their fur coats, having them stand up on end to help to keep them warm. Is that also just a beautiful scene or a beautiful image, that especially that middle impala there? Lovely to see that change in color from the dark red on the back to the lighter orange in the middle, and then that pale cream color on the belly. And look at how jumpy they are. Every time one kind of lifts his head to move it to the next piece of grass or the next little bush, he gives one of the other impalas a fright. And often in these little bachelor herds, these young rams will spar with each other, which is basically just play fighting. And just like we saw those lion cubs doing earlier, how they were practicing their hunting skills on their unsuspecting mothers, these young impala rams will practice their fighting with each other. And at this age, it'll just be kind of pushing each other around, locking horns, taking each other's measure, figuring out a hierarchy amongst themselves. Who is the strongest ram? Who is the weakest ram? Who should I give way to, and who can I bully? And this will prepare them for one day when they have to fight seriously with each other, when there are females and territory at stake. Alright, we're going to leave these impala to continue with their grazing and see if we can go and find those rhinos that I spoke about earlier.
So we follow these lines all the way and back to the question from earlier, where do lions find water to drink? So we got these lions walking away from that pen, but we didn't really realize what was going on, only to find that there was no water in that pen, so it looks like it hasn't been pumped for a while. So they walked all the way down to another small water hole that they are busy drinking. So majority of the adults have walked down towards the sand in the riverbed, which we're possibly going to lie down there for a nice light to warm up. And the rest of the cubs are still playing out there. Look at those two chasing each other like that. Seriously important for them. But you see them doing, they haven't participated in any hunt as yet. But it's so important for them to practice, play like that and practice how to hunt, because that is something that the skill they're going to need later on in life. Looking at these tiny little cubs, the bigger siblings are trying to play with them, but the dangerous thing there is that sometimes they don't know that this one are much, much smaller, how they need to be gently and stuff, and sometimes it results quite badly where they end up breaking them. But these little cubs are quite feisty. They fight back, and every time the bigger cubs try to play with them, they're not really interested in playing with all of them. It's like they know that can be dangerous for them, and they always try to stick together as the two brother and a sister there right in a long grass. You can see how you can hear them contact calling slightly. Most of the pride is here, but we still shot the young male with that young male that's limping, and the two Ross males are not here. But earlier on today we heard, it sounded like a male line calling this morning. So they're moving and they contact calling. I don't think they will be looking for the Ross male themselves. They might be trying to contact call to see if they can find that young male. So the Ross males are the fathers of these cubs. So this pride is living in at least a quarter, maybe to half of the Ross males' territory. However, the males have got a much more bigger territory because they've got few other prides that they control. So it's not only this pride that the Ross males have in their territory. So if our property is about 14,700 hectares, I think the Ross male have got at least half of that, if not more. Whereas the Birmingham pride maybe will have a quarter of the Ross male's territory, but the last week or so, this pride have been walking so much. We have been trying to follow them and track them, and sometimes in one evening or the other day we tracked them for like between 12 and 15 kilometers non-stop, which is not really understandable why, but we cannot always understand what animals are doing. But if you try to think about it with the smaller cubs and the distance they're walking, these cubs are struggling to keep up, and you end up finding the female by herself with the cub somewhere because it's just too much walking that this pride is doing at the moment. But maybe they're enjoying the nice cold winter weather where they have to move some serious long distances. And maybe they're struggling to find game to hunt. But at the moment, they were successful the day before yesterday with something big like a buffalo. So they all look full bedded. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start moving down towards the riverbed and see where the rest of them are sleeping, if they are sleeping down there, playing in a nice sandy sand and enjoying the light. So we're going to go. Hello. Here they are, nicely scattered all the way across this beautiful Timbavati River. Wonderful morning indeed. It's beautiful to actually see lions in such an open area in a nice sandy, without any grass blades distracting your view. And it looks like they're all facing towards where the sun is. It looks like they're wanting to warm up a little bit after such a cold night. You can hear on the background the grey go-away birds. It's just spotted the lions and they decided to warn everybody else about this danger that's around. So being a predator or being a lion is such a difficult thing, in particular because all the herbivores kind of work together, including birds. If they spot a lion, they give a distress call which will warn all the other animals in the area. And lions relying on the element of surprise when they hunt, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to stay neutral and be able to get close to what they're trying to hunt. So right now they won't be too bothered by these sounds that the grey go-away bird is making, simply because they have just finished a buffalo early hours of the morning and they came down here to drink, so they're not looking for any hunting opportunity at all. But if they were looking for a hunting opportunity with all the noise that the go-away bird is making, all the other animals around, starting from impala all the way to the size of a giraffe, will be so alert and looking around to see what is this grey go-away bird talking about. See the tiny little cub there, it looks like she's... So the grey go-away bird, the tiny little cub, looking like she's trying a little bit hard to beg the mother for milk, but the mother doesn't look interested at all. She doesn't look like she's about to give in anything. It doesn't look like they're gonna settle here for too long, looking at the rest. So no, the 5 cubs are not from the same mother. So the biggest litter out of these cubs come from the 3 females. So what happened, there were not only 5, I think there were about 7 at start. And some of them, of course, knowing how high the mortality rate of lion cubs are, would have died. So the first bigger 4 belong to one mother, and the other 2 belong to another female. So altogether in this bride, we've got, including the small cubs, we've got 5 females that have already given cubs. So all the other 5, the bigger ones, they will cycle on every single mother that was lactating at the time. However, the tiny little ones now don't have that luxury because it's only their mother that's lactating. Okay, those cute little things playing. If you look straight where they are, they look like they're gonna climb that very steep bank of the Timbawati River to get onto the other side. As they go along, after feeding on a buffalo, they go stop, go to the bathroom, just making themselves a little bit light. So we have just finished the kids' drive. So to all the other viewers, you're welcome to start sending your questions to #WildEarth and be able to ask and communicate with us with whatever you need to know about wildlife. They're very playful this morning, still full of energy. Digesting that buff. See, if you look, all of these lines in this sand, they kind of camouflage a bit, but look at how this white one stands out. There is no way of camouflaging there whatsoever. So, being a white lion, don't know if you know the story about white lion and how rare they are, But yeah, they're very rare in the wild. This is this white. We're sitting here, we're sitting with two of only 3 white lions in the wild in the whole world. However, every now and again, lionesses in different prides might be able to give birth, but they don't often survive this long. One of the biggest challenges these 2 white ones that we have here that are going to face is the actual fact of not being able to camouflage when they try to join the pride and start participating in hunts. As it stands now, the young male is just over 2 years old, so he's slowly but surely watching the adults as they do it, but he doesn't have enough experience to actually participate fully in a hunt and actually contribute positively. However, the fact that he's white might even make it take much longer for him to actually contribute in a positive way, because in particular this time of the year where the grass is not as tall but nice and brown, for lions they need to use their camouflage then to be able to hunt. However, he doesn't have the luxury of getting to camouflage because he just stands out. Kathy, the white lion within the pride, they don't treat them differently at all. I don't even know that they notice that they're different colors. So everything they do together as a pride with no discrimination whatsoever. So they get treated exactly the same. Cool. Look at how that one much more bigger cub is so playful and running up and down, just wasting a lot of energy this morning up and down that steep bank of the riverbed there, and the rest of them are just sitting down and watching right above to see what is about to happen there. Every now and again it looks like he might tumble down, but he's done well for now. He's been running up and down. He hasn't fallen as yet, but I think if he carries on as he's been doing, chances are that it's going to happen. Look at how great is camouflaged there up in that wall with just the grass. See what we talk about when we talk about the white one not having the camouflage that the rest of them have. If we know that we zoom slightly further, you can't even really see that there is a line up there if you're not looking carefully. Megan, such a great question you just asked. Yeah, there is definitely a reason. If you look at the tuft of hair at the end of the lion's tail, it's black. And if you look behind the ears of the lioness, it's also black. So every now and again when they move, in particular in long grass where they camouflage so well, imagine those tiny little cubs. Because the grass is so tall, they might not necessarily be able to see the back of the mother's ears to be able to keep up. But if you look at the tail and where it's hanging, it's on the right eye level of those lion cubs to be able to see the female walking away from them, and that is the way they keep up. So not only with the lions, but most animals have some sort of marking on their butt or the back of the ears, just to be able to follow each other as they move through this thick bush. Talking about that tuft of hair, the end of a lion, if you look at all the tawny-colored lions, they all have that black at the tip of the tail. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the two white cubs have that, or it's not as distinct as the ones in the tawny lions. They are playing nice and chasing each other around without having to worry about getting tripped with the grass or some twigs. It looks like this for them right now is just a perfect spot for them to be doing everything they're doing. It does look like slowly but surely they think of leaving this riverbed and go towards the bank. I don't know if they are already looking for a shade to go lie down or they're going to carry on moving for a while. But we're going to stick with them in the riverbed now and watch them as they cross up. Oh, it looks like that one female going up that wall was a little bit of a hard work for her. So as these lines are all going up now, we're going to try and start and drive around to try and see if we can catch up with them on the other side. And if they're still moving, it would be nice to keep up with them until we see where they're actually going to settle for the day. It might even be better if we're lucky that we help them find, or we are with them if they find the other missing member of the pride. I'm going to drive around now.
We have arrived in the open plains, everyone, and have a look at this beautiful vista that has greeted us. The rolling grasslands stretching almost as far as the eye can see. And what I want us to do is to use our binoculars, as well as, for you guys, of course, the zoom of the camera. And we're going to see if we can spot anything from here, because these tops of these hills offer us such a fantastic vantage point. And with a rhino being quite a big animal, we can often spot them from a distance away. Now, remember I said that we were going to be checking into, or go and look for some guarri thickets where the rhinos might be sheltering from the wind. So we'll check carefully into those thickets, use our binoculars, and we're going to be looking out for a big, a big grey shape. Just maybe the back of the rhino, that kind of hump sticking up above the guarri trees. I can see some wildebeests and some zebra and some giraffe way out in the distance. I don't know, Marcel, can you see there's that little kind of pyramid? That comes to the left a little bit more. You got them. I think come to the left a bit more, and then should be around there. Zoom to the left a little bit again. We're trying to see if we can find these giraffe for you. I think Marcel says he's got them for you. They're so, oh, there we go, yeah, that's them. Some tiny little giraffes in the distance. Brian, you're saying, oh, what a wide open plain. Absolutely, Brian, and for that reason, this is one of my favorite parts of the reserve, is because of the open spaces and because of how far we can see things. One of my favorite things to do is to stop and use binoculars and see what we can spot from a vantage point. So we've managed to see those giraffe way out in the distance there, but no sign of these rhinos that we're looking for just yet. And I think they might still be kind of tucked away into their thickets. Although I can feel now that with the sun coming up, it almost feels like the wind is dying down a little bit, and it's getting a little bit warmer. And that's going to be good for us, because that's going to mean that these rhinos are going to come out of their hiding place sooner rather than later, and we'll be able to get a nice view of them, hopefully. Okay, let's carry on and see if we can find them. We're going to head down kind of into that region down there, and we'll go see if we can find any signs of the rhinos. So as these rhinos start to wake up and start to move around, I think we're going to be focusing mainly on looking for white rhino this morning, just because they are the more common species. of the two species of rhino. They're also more active in the daytime. Black rhino are often a bit more nocturnal, although sometimes during the colder months they'll feed into the day. But it's going to be the white rhino that we're going to be focusing on. So we're going to go have a look down there. I think now, with it warming up a bit, they're going to be coming out and starting to graze. Peter, you're remarking about the incredible diversity of habitats that there are here at Phinda. Peter, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on here. One of the things that are very special about Phinda is our wide array of habitats. So there's this open grassland down here in the far south of the reserve. If you go a little bit further north from here, where we were just now with the lions, that's kind of more of like a mountainous woodland. And I think, Peter, just while we talk about this, I think to do justice to my talking about your comment, I'm going to get a map out of the reserve just so we can get an idea of the wide array of habitats that we've got here. So there is a map of and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We are currently down here in this kind of grey area, and the grey represents this open grassland that we're currently in. So see how the grassland is mainly down here in the far south, but then there's also scattered patches a little bit further north around Mountain Lodge, and there's also a patch far in the north of the reserve. But then look at all the other colours. So there's this green belt with the mountains, and that's where we were with those lions and their cubs this morning. And that's kind of a mountainous woodland. If you were to go to the river courses, see there's a dark green colour around the river courses, and that's kind of a riverine forest, so very big tall trees, lots of fig trees or lots of fruiting trees that attract lots of different birds. If you go a little bit further up, see there's this very light green patch here, and it even extends up here, but mainly in the north of the reserve. And that is a kind of habitat that we call palm felt, and it's dominated by those ilala palms. Some of you may remember I showed you one a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, very, very special habitat. And then if you get into the far north of the reserve, there's this region that is kind of illustrated by this salmony orangey color here, and that is sand felt woodland. So the soil there is all sand, like you would find on the beach, and it's dominated by big trees like marulas and silver cluster leaves and black monkey thorns, and also lots of monkey orange trees. And lastly, one of the habitats that is very special to Phinda, and it's not found in many other places, is this creamy color here, and that is sand forest, which is a very dry and very rare kind of forest. But yeah, for the time being, unfortunately, some of these habitats we're not quite able to show you just yet because of signal, but hopefully in the near future we will be able to. But speaking of diverse habitats, I believe that Dylan is ready to say good morning to you, so we'll send you across to him.
Good morning, everyone, from another gorgeous day at Tswalu Kalahari. Look at that. Nothing wrong. Chandra is always on camera, and I'm Dylan. It is always a pleasure having you with us. It is a pretty chilly this morning. It's the actual ambient temperature is not as cold as it was yesterday, but there's a slight breeze that has really dropped the temperature. We've got something interesting that's going on here, and we're not worried about it, but we don't know what to expect this morning. So we've come back to the meerkat burrows, and you'll notice how smooth the entrance of some of these burrows are over here. You can see it's been smoothed over. And what's happened here is Veronique, our meerkat habituator, the lady that works with them all the time, she got here at the normal time yesterday when they would go down into the burrows, and there were no meerkats around. So this is interesting. We know they've got pups, so either they've moved the pups or they came in after she was here. So what Veronica's done, she's actually just smoothed the entrances of some of the burrows, the ones that we know they're using. So when we got here this morning, you could see if there's actually tracks going back into the burrows of the meerkats. There's nothing. There's nothing over that smooth sand. So it could be that possibly they actually had very good feeding yesterday when they went out during the day, and they've come back early. Or it could be maybe they encountered other meerkats and they came back early to make sure that the pups are okay. That is a strong likelihood of that. Oh, look at that sunrise. Look at that sunrise. That is absolutely gorgeous. So butterflies said, wow, meerkats move dens. Yes, they do. And like I say, there can be a number of reasons for that. We know the horses moved because of the badger incident. They typically, when they don't have pups, every couple of days, sometimes every couple of weeks, they'll move to a new burrow system within their territory that they know, that they're very familiar with. And that can, one of the key reasons is probably, or there's probably a couple of key reasons there. One of them is parasite load build-up in the burrows. The other is the longer they reside at a burrow, the more susceptible they are to predation around that burrow. So those are very, very good reasons for survival to keep moving burrows. But when they got pups, they should be here for another 3 weeks at least. They can move before that, and it's well known that they do. But these pups will now be just over a week old, so we kind of going on just under a week when they should be emerging. Anyway, it could be, like I say, I'm hoping, and we're all hoping, that these meerkats actually came back before the normal time, which is kind of like 4:35ish. Anyway, so let's see what happens. It's all part of it. It's all very exciting, and it just gives it that element of the unknown, which is actually what makes the bush so exciting. So we're just going to keep sticking here, and let's see if they come out.
So look, they all came around onto the riverbank. Okay, some of them are trying to play, stretching around on the tree, taking a little bit of a stretch. They've been looking up that tree. I don't know if there is a scent of some sort. Maybe there would have been a leopard that walked here and they're picking up that scent, because few of them, they come and they stood there, look up, and then now this one was trying to stretch and looking up again. So they've been moving and lying down. They are on the shady spot now, but it does look like they might still move again. Can hear the cubs really begging hard that they want a mother to lie down, possibly for them to suckle. At the moment, it doesn't look like she's buying the idea at all. She's just been active and moving around, and they just can't let her off their side for now. They are just following behind patiently and hoping that whenever she lies down, maybe she will let them suckle for a change. She is putting her head down like she's following a scent of some sort, but there's also a nice thick bush up ahead that way she might go lie down there, maybe let them suckle. And that might also mean if she suckles them there and they're full bellied and they fall asleep, that if the pride decide to carry on moving, that she might leave them there. Looks like she's changed her mind. She's not going into that bush anymore. Looks like she's just taking them for a walk around before she let them suckle. Look at how she's walking, taking back right to where the rest of the pride is, and she goes and lie down. So what they're possibly gonna do, they'll keep on moving straight towards her and go try and take a chance and see if she lets them suckle. So Wild Mountain, the rose males are not with the pride today, but they're not completely gone. They will be back with this pride. We haven't seen the young male with the pride at least for the last 4 days. He might have been left behind because of his limp when the pride was traveling quite far off. However, they have been trying to get rid of him. Maybe they finally got it right. But I've seen this before with him where he's not with the pride for a few days and the next thing he's back. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for him. Hopefully he is all right wherever he is. But yeah, it would be nice to see him and know what he was up to. So at the moment we don't know exactly where the rose male is, but there were some male lines roaring early hours of the morning this morning, so we're not sure exactly where. We're going to try and reposition and move slightly forward. It looks like the young ones might have finally get an opportunity to circle and see if the mother is letting them. It looks like she's not. So we're going to move around. You find it like that? Chris, that is not a common thing to happen. The males are much more powerful, and as hard as the females try, it's not an easy thing to do because those males will fight back. However, the females, in particular this lionesses of the Birmingham Pride, they're big, and for that male that we're talking about just now, for him to still be alive, is because the females have been defending him. And the rose males tried their best, but these females just kept on fighting them back, and that's how they managed to stay. But when it comes to food, it's a situation of life and death. Even the lionesses themselves, they're not really trying to fight to give the food to the cubs. It's each animal for itself. So when it comes to lion, when the food is involved, the word share doesn't exist. Even the mother will fight for her own space to get a piece of meat, and the cub will also have to fight his own battle to get himself involved. You can see how she's standing up, and most of them are grooming, but they're not completely. They don't look like they're gonna completely lie down here. It looks like they might move, so we're gonna stick around with them for a while and see what they do.
So we've dropped down now into the grasslands, and we're busy making our way towards those guarri thickets, and we've found a very pretty little bird. Have a look at that beautiful little white collar on the back of his neck, on his shoulder, and his black back. And if he would be so kind as to turn towards us, you might be able to see that on his chest, he's got a beautiful reddish orangey coloration. Now this is a male, and there's a female as well that just landed on the tree. So that bird just to the right of him, see how she's also very similar size, similar shape, but not quite as colorful. This is a male and female African stone chat, everyone. Very busy little birds. With the cool of the morning, they are flying around busy feeding. They'll be looking for little insects that they'll spot from their perches, and they'll then fly down, as that female did, onto the road or into the bush to grab the hapless, unsuspecting insect. And what's quite special about these little birds is that I'm sure many of you have come across migratory birds like swallows or terns that travel vast distances across countries, across continents, across oceans, as they migrate in search of, or heading between feeding grounds and breeding grounds. So these stone chats, oh, the male's left, but the female's now replaced him. These stone chats, they don't quite migrate across oceans or across continents, but they will migrate altitudinally, which means that during the colder months of the year, they'll come down to low altitudes closer to the coastline, and then during winter they come down into the warmer climates of low altitude, and then during summer they'll go back up into the grasslands of the interior of South Africa. I'll just show you quickly a picture in the bird book of what they look like. So there is the African stone chat, the male, like I said, with that white shoulder, the black head and black back, that white little stripe on his wing, and that beautiful kind of rusty orange chest. And then there's the female. So a little bit more drab in coloration, but also a very attractive little bird. So amazing to think that these little birds, they're only about 14 centimeters long, so about that long, and they'll migrate up and down the escarpment in South Africa. So this is where they're found. Migrate in search of warmer climates and the best available food. Yeah, very pretty bird. Quite common to see, but not often do we get to film them because they're so busy. So I'm very glad that we finally managed to get one on camera. Let us carry on now up the road, and we're going to head towards some of those big guarri thickets and try and find those rhinos. But Megan, you say that apparently it's a new bird for your list. Megan, I love to hear that, and I would love to hear what your bird list is on for if you've got a wild earth bird list. I did say the other day we're going to try and get you as many new birds from Phinda as possible. We spoke about the diversity of habitats that are on our reserve, and with that comes a very large biodiversity of bird life. And we're hoping to show you as many new bird species as possible. Let's carry on though. So apparently quite a few of you saying that it's a new bird species for you for Wild Earth. And Peter, you're saying that you hope to see an African broadbill. Oh, stop the car, everybody. This is one of my favorite birds, Peter, so I'm going to take a bit of time to talk about it, just because it's such a special little bird. And I mentioned earlier that we've got that very special habitat up in the north of the reserve called the sand forest. And that is probably the best place on the reserve to see an African broadbill. Just give me 1 second while I pull it up in the bird book for you. And now, normally with birds, you hear people really want to see it. It's normally because they're super pretty or super powerful, or they've got some amazing feature. When you have a look at an African broadbill, initially, I don't know about you guys, but there's not really much to look at. It's a small, drab bird. It's also a similar size to an African stone chat, also only about 14 centimeters long. And when compared to the other birds that it shares this page in the bird book with, like this African peter, it doesn't really look like much. But it's got an amazing display flight that it does. And what it will do, here's even a little diagram that the bird book has provided us with. So the male will sit on a branch like that, and he'll then fly in a very tight little circle with his little white plumes on his back extended. And as he flies in that tight circle, he'll fly in a tight circle, come back to the branch, and he makes the most unbelievable sound. It sounds like an elephant trumpeting, and I'll try and do my best impression of it, but it kind of sounds like this. And then there'll be a long pause, and then again you'll hear. And they normally call first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. So it's normally quite dark, and while you're sitting in this eerie forest, the next thing you just hear this. It's quite an eerie kind of thing to hear. Yeah, so Peter, hopefully sometime we'll be able to get into that forest and be able to show you one. But in the meantime, while we continue looking for our rhinos, we'll send you across to Barney.
It looks like hard work finally paid off for the cubs. Eventually, the mother is finally given in. She's lying on the side, and you can see how the two of them are busy suckling at the moment. Every now and again, there is a little bit of a competition between the two of them, possibly competing for a tit that's possibly giving Mama Land that's giving a little bit more milk than the others. But it looks like the squabble is finally over, and they're just enjoying their time and having a good suckling session before the mother decide that, hey, you know what, this is it. Because as much as she's lying down now, so as the rest of the pride, there is a chance that she might get up and let them off, because as tiny as they look, with their tiny little teeth, it looks like that one managed to have a full belly too quickly. It is quite painful on her side because they suckle, but every now and again they bite with those tiny little sharp teeth. Doesn't look like they were too hungry. They must have fed a lot on that buffalo for them. They only suckled for like three minutes tops, and then now they're off. So maybe the mother knew better that they don't really need much of this milk right now, but they were really, really persistent until she gave in. Looks like she might be really happy now that they finally went off. And see, she's put her head back up. It looks like something might have caught her attention. Look at how focused she looks. Ears pointing on that direction. Head fixed. It looks like either she heard a sound on the grass, or she might have picked up a movement of some sort. It's quite windy now. The wind has just started picking up, so she could also be mistaken and maybe didn't see much, but she thought she might have seen something. But she is still doubly checking. Her head is moving every now and again. But because she's not standing up and it doesn't look like she's going to try and head that way, I don't think that there was much to see on her side. Yeah, lions are really, really adorable. And you're 100% right. In particular, if you see them start playing and grooming their babies, they really, really look like keeping that bond strengthened, and they really look like a family. And it's very important for them to watch that. Every now and again, rub off heads and a little bit of a grooming session like the two are doing right there now. Because after walking away from something big like a buffalo, the amount of fighting that would have happened for them to try and get a better spot would have been intense. And if it wasn't some of these great things that they do together, the grooming of each other, the play and all of that, that makes them realize how much they need each other. They could easily split up and never rejoin if they only think about fights. But after such a fighting session for food, these great things that they're doing of grooming each other and all of that is what makes them realize how much they need each other. And that's the only reason why they are as successful as they are. They look like they're slowly but surely starting to sleep, but we're going to stick with them for a little bit longer and see exactly what happens.
So we have some very excellent news, very relieving news, that the meerkats actually have made an appearance. So that is a big relief for us, because we've been staking a lot of time, or staking a lot of reputation on making sure we try to get these pups for you, and we're spending a lot of time at these meerkats. So I would have been pretty bleak had we got to this point this far along and found that we had somehow missed where the meerkats were going to. So there's the first two that have come out. It's the alpha female on that side, and then it looks like a male, which is closest to me. So let's see. I mean, it's still early in the morning. They've came out about five minutes ago. Yeah, so like I'm very relieved about this. And like I said, it is nature. Yeah, meerkats get eaten. We know this. Yeah, and this particular group is interesting because I mean these landscapes are massive. It's a vast area, and this particular group, we know where most of their burrows are, but we're pretty sure we're missing one key burrow system, and we've looked for it everywhere. The trackers have walked, the habituators have looked for it. So every now and again this group has got a habit of like disappearing off the radar for a couple of days. So yeah, that's the $1 million question there. So we'll keep tabs on them. So I'm just super chuffed that they did come out. And what is interesting now is, well, what went on yesterday afternoon that caused them to come back so early? Because they obviously came back, you know, before anyone was around here. So that was pre 4:30 in the afternoon, which is pretty early for them, even at this time of the year, to be back at the burrows. So and like I say, I mean, that could have been a pressure from a neighbouring meerkat group. It could have been a predation or an attempt at predation. It could even just be something good, like, well, maybe they had a really good foraging day and they wanted to come back to the pups. What we did have yesterday, and we saw that noticeably on our drives, is, and again this morning, the temperature started dropping very rapidly yesterday afternoon. And it could be possibly that this alpha female, having gone out, they foraged for the day and feeling this temperature change, came back. Because even though these pups are underground and the underground conditions are incredibly stable compared to above ground, but still there will be a lag effect with that reduction in temperature underground. So it could be that female just said, well, listen, let's get back. They need to be with these youngsters and suckle them and look after them. Roshni has just asked a good question. So how do they move these pups, and are they too young to move? So Roshni, these pups will actually be carried by the nape of the neck by the dominant female. So she'll actually pick them and move them. And that's if they're too small to walk. And then she'll come back, get the other ones, and they'll keep going like that. And that distance doesn't have to be far. The Xhosa group that moved, a straight line distance from where the badger hit that one burrow system to where they relocated to is probably 400 meters. So, I mean, these little guys will cover that literally in a couple of minutes. So it's not difficult for them. As the pups get older, though, they will actually start moving around. Even though it's slowly, they'll start moving. But from about 7 weeks of age, 7-8 weeks of age, maybe a little bit older, the group won't even slow down their normal foraging speed and their normal moving speed. They'll expect those little ones to keep up with them. But at this kind of age, the pups are too small to move by themselves, so they will always be carried by the adults. But after about 4 weeks, then they'll actually start even slowly just moving along with the adults. And that's really what we're hoping with. And this is why we're spending so much time, because we're not spending energy, I promise you. We're just chilling here. It's flipping amazing to be able to just sit in the outdoors like this. But we're certainly spending quite a bit of time here in the mornings. So I really just want people to bear with us. There is a point to it, I promise. And it's going to be totally mind-blowing on every level when these little pups come out. It is, I promise you, it's going to be worth every single second we And what a privilege. And like I say, to be able to bring you with us on these journeys. Jeandre and myself spending time out here, and our meerkat habituators. I mean, it's such a special thing to be able to spend time, and not just with meerkats. You know, it doesn't matter whether we're sitting looking at a hole in the ground and nothing comes out. It's just being there, living in that moment, that is so important and so special. And we'll continue doing that, and sometimes it'll pay, sometimes it won't, but it's always good to do it.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
We are hot on the trail of these white rhinos, everybody. Have a look at this big pile of dung here in front of me. And I know that we've shown you quite a few rhino or rhino middens, as they're called, but this one, there's something special that I want to show you about this one. So have a look over here. Can you see here how it's very light in color? The dung is all very white, very faded. So this is obviously quite old dung. But if I go forward, have a look at all of this. Look at how dark this is. I don't know if you can see the flies that are buzzing around it. It's still wet. It's not quite warm, but it's still, this is fresh. So it just goes to show you how the space of time that these rhinos will use these middens for. And they'll come back and defecate on them time and again as the white rhino bull comes through his territory. Have a look here. Can you see this kind of exposed patch of ground here and these two stripes where this white rhino bull would have come and stood, and then as he defecated, scraped his back legs in his dung to break it up, to get his scent onto the undersides of his feet, so that as he walks around his territory, he can lay his scent down. So with this dung being this fresh, I wouldn't be surprised if the dominant white rhino bull in this area came through here, defecated on his midden, and then carried on as he was patrolling his territory. Maybe going in search of a female coming into estrus, maybe going in search of food, just patrolling his territory. Just while we're here, I've noticed something pretty interesting just off to the left here. Have a look at this pile of dung here. Now, look at the color, see how white it is, so obviously pretty old. But have a look at these little mushrooms that are growing out of this dung pile. And we get a couple of different species of mushrooms that specialize in growing out of elephant dung or rhino dung. Exactly which one this is, I'm not quite sure. But amazing to see just how useful this dung can be. Obviously we know about dung beetles and how different kinds of birds will come and scrape the dung piles open to feed on the insects that are attracted to it, and also bits of grass seeds and undigested bits of plant matter in there. But amazing to see these mushrooms here too. Alright, so fresh dung. So these rhinos can't be too far away. Anna-Marie, you're asking if a midden's got a smell. Anna-Marie, it definitely does. It does smell, it smells like rhino dung. So it's got, it was just kind of just very similar to horse dung, obviously just a much bigger pile. Because it's basically just grass, it's just digested grass that the rhinos have obviously eaten and that's passed through their body. They will often also, when the bulls do deposit their dung on the pile, they'll often spray their urine too onto the dung pile, and that urine does have a bit of a scent at the start, but at least to human noses it's not something super strong or super pungent, not like a leopard scent mark that often smells quite distinctly like popcorn. Okay, we're going to carry on. We're close to these rhinos now, everybody, and hopefully when we come back to you we'll have some to show you. In the meantime, let's go see what Barney's got.
Majority of the pride started settling down. Only a few young ones that are still got their heads up, with this white one looking super inquisitive. He's been staring in this direction for quite a while. Looks like he might have heard something, or maybe thinks that he might have seen something on the grass, but it looks like slowly but surely he is losing interest. You can see next to him is his other young male brother. They're starting to stick together quite a lot. You see, even when they walk and play, they're keeping an eye on each other. It looks like they know that later on in life, the two of them plus the other third brother, who I don't see right now, possibly lying flat in the long grass, are going to need to stick together and break away from here when that time comes. they still have a little bit of time to be with the pride and learn some things like hunting, which they're going to need to do by themselves then. They are just over 2 years, so they're lucky they've got another year and a half, close to 2 years before that time comes. At least for the three of them, they've got each other's backs, that if they live together, if they're all still alive then and they live together, they've got a little bit of an advantage to help each other hunt. They're not as unfortunate as their brother who is missing here, who he was the only male from that litter that managed to survive. And of course, we don't know where he is, as I mentioned earlier, but wherever he is, let's hope he's well, because life doesn't look like it's too exciting for him being by himself, limping so that he's not as fast when it comes to hunting, and watching over his back on a daily basis that the roastmates don't get into him, in particular without the mothers being there. But hopefully we'll see him again soon. You can see majority of these lines, except these two boys close to us that have got their heads up again, looking on the same direction as they were looking earlier. They look like they're starting to settle. Every now and again, you see one getting up if it's in a little bit of a sunny spot into the shady spot where most of the pride is. It does look like these lines are going to settle here for most of the morning. Unless, of course, something they hear that they're interested on. Earlier on, there was sound of the vultures mating close by, which they all took interest in, and they looked around, but they're already given up by now. So we will just stick with them for a little bit more, but if they all go to sleep, we might need to leave them and see what else we can find for you this morning while things are still up and active. Jake, the sun is so warming. It's the nicest thing right now to actually get the sun on the face after a little bit of a fresh morning. And it looks like some of these lions are enjoying that too, because one of them is lying completely upside down and exposed his belly. And it looks like the last one is also just moved into away from the sun, nice sun, into the shady spot. I think they're gonna be here for most of the morning for sure.
We've managed to find some rhinos, everybody. We said that dung looked reasonably fresh, and we just came around the corner, and we've been rewarded with no less than 3 white rhinos. So have a look there, in shot currently. See in the middle how much bigger that one is compared to the one to her left. So a mother and her calf. And just to their right, there is a large bull. I wouldn't be surprised if he is the one responsible for that enormous midden that we just came past. And all of them, just like we said, with their heads down, busy grazing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if this bull approaches closely to the mother with her youngster. We've filmed it quite a few times how protective mother rhinos can be with their youngsters. They often don't take very kindly to the approach of a big bull. Ruby, you say, how wonderful to see rhinos this morning. Ruby, I completely agree with you. They're just such special animals. So prehistoric looking. And lovely to have them in this beautiful morning light. It looks like the two parties are slowly grazing in each other's direction. It's going to be very interesting to see how they react. Beverly, you say that's a huge male rhino. He is enormous, and I think that when they're a little bit closer together, we'll be able to get a really good size comparison. even now though, look at that, how much bigger that bull who's on the right, look how much bigger he is than the cow on the left. Now I know they are on slightly different levels on the hillside, but quite a noticeable size difference, especially his forequarters. Look at his kind of his shoulder and his neck and his chest. Oh man, look at that little one coming out into the open. How fantastic is that? I'm just trying to get a good look with my binoculars at that little one to have a look at his little horns that are starting to grow. I was able to see that the front horn is growing quite a bit already, but I wasn't able to see if there was a back horn or the second horn growing just yet. And that's how we can, or one of the many ways that we can age a young rhino, is by looking at how much their little horns have grown. It's typically between 1.5 and 2 years that second horn, the horn closer to the eyes of the rhino, where that horn becomes pronounced enough for you to really be able to see it. For the time being, it looks like that cow is pretty indifferent to the advances or to the big male. I think it's because he's not really showing much interest in her. And looking at that calf now, and I could see that little horn is, it's not really that noticeable. So I would estimate this calf to be about 1.5 years old, which means that mom is probably not going to be ready to mate for quite some time, and that's probably why the bull is not approaching super close to her. Steve, number one fan, you're asking if the bull will hurt or will only hurt the calf if it's not his own. Steve, number one fan, even if it is his own calf, if he is desperate to, or if he senses that or smells that the female is coming into estrus and is ready to mate, he will, regardless of whether that calf is his or not, will get that calf out of the way, or try to get the calf out of the way to get to the female. Which might involve the calf getting injured, but before it gets to that level, the mother will definitely step in to protect it. And that being said as well, even if this calf is not his, because this female white rhino might range through a number of males' territories. While she might be in this bull's territory for now, she may have been many territories from here when she mated. So she may have mated with a bull from another part of the reserve. And again, it'll just be her protecting this youngster that will keep it safe. We're gonna stick with these rhinos for a bit and see what they get up to. Continue to watch them grazing and feeding and see what transpires here.
So there's a third little one that's popped up now, the one right on the left hand side of weaving, and then the alpha female is the one sitting in the middle of that group over there. They're super alert this morning. I mean, I know they're alert every morning, but they seem to be a little bit twitchy this morning. We haven't seen any predators around here, no raptors. There's no signs of any large predators having been around the burrows last night. So I think they may know something we don't. Okay, there's a fourth one popping out to the left of this group over here. He's still got his head below ground. He's just coming out. Just sticking over. He's watching Gendre now. He's going to come out. He's going to come out. Give it time. Give it time. And when we actually started working with this group, this one that's just the top of his head is sticking out now. When we started working with this group, this was a very, very, very nervous animal. And he's actually now just coming out, even when we're sitting here, which is really, really good. And this is the benefit of spending time with animals, is that they just become more and more and more relaxed in your presence. And as a consequence, you actually can see some good stuff. Okay, here comes oh no, that's a starling. Jeez. So Debbie has asked, so what is a meerkat habituator? So basically, if you want to get an animal to become relaxed, okay, it's not like difficult, but it just takes time, and it takes a lot of patience, and it takes people that understand animal behavior and are prepared. And not all people are as observant as others. That is for absolute sure. And so our habituators are people that are super dedicated to it. They will come and they'll spend time with these meerkats every single day. And because meerkats are a very, very popular species for guests visiting these places to see, so we've invested a lot of time and energy with our meerkats into trying to get these animals to be nice and relaxed. And the only way you're going to get that right is by sitting around with the meerkats every single day. When they move or foraging, you can actually follow them slowly. We're not quite at the point with this group yet. That's why we don't follow them when they go out yet. That we'll start building towards that over the coming weeks, hopefully. But you really need people that are super observant. The key thing comes in, it's if these meerkats never move from this burrow, well, it would be easy. So, okay, well, they're always going to be here. Let's just come back here every day. The problem is they don't do that. And what that means is you need someone that understands not just the meerkats, but this landscape that we're in, and that is prepared to put in a huge amount of legwork to actually keep walking, keep looking for new burrow systems, looking for bolt holes. And very often these are super obscure little things. Even a new burrow system doesn't have to be of this extent. You may recall that about a week ago, we kind of lost track of these meerkats, but they'd moved, relocated to that tiny little burrow. So I think there were like 2 entrances. So the meerkats is like Veronique and Rebecca. They are key on the ground to be able to actually cover this area and say, okay, there's burrow systems here. And when you do lose a group of meerkats, you can start checking those. Like Veronique came as well yesterday with these burrows over here and actually swept the entrances of these just with her hand. You didn't bring a broom with to sweep them. Just wipes down the entrance of the burrow with her hand so there's no tracks. And then you can see, okay, meerkats have come back. So the habituator, you really need time and patience. And that can go for whether if you are trying to habituate wolves or bears or ground squirrels or, I'm not going to point, don't worry, but there's a bird of prey that just flew past in the distance over here. It was a small little one. It's called and you can actually look it up, those of you if you want to Google it. It's called a Gabar goshawk, Gabar, goshawk, Goshawk. Yeah. And they're not going to worry about that bird at all. That's extremely unlikely to actually catch a meerkat whatsoever. So, but they just did note it flying past and that. So, but that goshawk is now after birds. He's hunting doves and that, and we're going to get a lot of doves flying over in the next couple of minutes, I reckon, probably the next 10-15, heading down to the waterhole, which is directly behind me at about 2 kilometers distant, down towards the mountains over there. So that goshawk is probably just setting up somewhere here for the day, ready to drop. And remember I said these meerkats were a little bit nervous? Deb said she's so desperate just to throw a GoPro into the burrow. No, Debbie, exactly that. It is very, very tempting to do that kind of thing and that. And we've actually had, there are people that have filmed a range of different species in den sites and burrows, but not just at Tswalu, but I mean like throughout the world and that. But the key thing with doing that kind of, sorry, I'm just keep scanning around. It's not, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something. The key thing with burrow systems and denning and nest sites, and remember we viewed that ostrich that John Ray spotted yesterday, a very, very good spot again. But these are really sensitive sightings, and you've got to be incredibly careful with animals. And I don't care what it is, and it's going to sound funny. Even if you've got a spider with a nest, with eggs in it, be sensitive, be careful about it, because I mean that's the entire evolutionary line is coming to that point to try and get these little youngsters out in that. And the last thing you want to do is be disturbing them. There are, however, ways that you can actually look into animal burrows with minimal disturbance, and that is the beauty of these remote cameras and these camera traps that you can set up in it. So, but you do need, it's not just a case of anyone just going and sticking a camera trap down and trying to get you. It's not about the photograph. It should never, ever be about the photograph or the footage. It should be about the welfare of the animals. And if you can do that sensitively and carefully, that's when a whole new world opens up. And that's very, very exciting.
We're still with our trio of white rhinos, everyone, and it looks like they've been joined by a little group of warthogs as well. Have a look on the far right of your screen. You might just be able to make out those little brown bodies following along behind the rhinos. Here they come. Looks like 3 little warthogs following along behind the rhinos. So just like the rhinos, these warthogs also would have had quite a late start to the morning. They would have been tucked up nice and warm in their burrows. And once the temperature warm enough outside, once there's a bit of sunshine, they would have come out and started to feed. And have a look at that grass around there. Now I know it's mainly grey and yellow in some places, but there are patches of green. And that's where both the warthogs and the white rhinos, both being grazing animals, that's where they're focusing their attentions currently, busy cropping up all of that lovely green grass. And just looking at this, pardon me, this little scenario reminds me of a story or a pretty fun afternoon that we had, I think at the end of last year. We went out looking for black rhinos, and we managed to find a mother and her very, very, very small calf, as well as a young sub-adult rhino that was just kind of following along for company and for safety and numbers. And we were watching them through some very thick bush. So we're just getting glimpses of the rhinos now and again, and glimpses of that very cute little calf. And we were eyeing and oohing and cooing at this little baby rhino because of how cute it was. And suddenly one of my guests said, "Oh my goodness, there's a second baby rhino." And we looked, and there was this little brown body, the same size as the first baby rhino. And we thought, no ways, this rhino's got twins. It does happen from time to time, but it is very rare to see rhinos with twins. I personally have never seen it in the wild. I've just given away my story. But anyway, so we were looking at these two, what we thought were calves. And suddenly a third little brown body appeared. And we thought, oh my goodness, no ways, it's triplets. This is impossible. How can there be 3 little baby rhinos? And then we looked a bit more carefully with the binoculars, and we were still not sure. And then eventually the 2 newcomer baby rhinos, in inverted commas, lifted their heads, and we discovered that it was actually 2 warthogs. So it was a baby rhino with mum, and then 2 little warthogs that had joined up. But for a little while, we were all completely sold that it was a rhino with triplets. We were getting ready to phone all the zoological societies and
different mammal authorities around the world. Thankfully, we picked up on our mistake pretty quickly. That would have been a very embarrassing mistake to make. Luckily, I didn't call it in on the radio either. I would have taken endless ribbings from my colleagues here. I must also just, while we're on the subject of baby rhinos, I must apologize, everyone. I said something that I didn't mean to say a little bit earlier. I said that I didn't think that this bull was or would be that interested in this cow based on the age of her calf. And I take that back, because this calf is definitely of an age where, if just based on on kind of the birthing intervals or the calving intervals of rhinos, this is definitely at an age where mom might be just about ready to mate again. So yeah, stay tuned, because maybe if that bull does move a little bit closer, there might be a bit of tension. Butterfly, you're asking if rhino babies are born with their horns or do they just grow? Butterfly, they don't have horns when they are born, but they do have the horn bed. So a horn grows, I don't know if you've heard before, but it is made of the same substance as our fingernails and as our hair, out of keratin, just much denser. And so it grows just like the fingernails or toenails on our bodies would. And so the little rhino is born with a horn bed, if you will, and from that bed the horn grows. So when it's born, it's just got a little flat horn bed, and as it gets bigger and older, that horn starts to grow. Look at that little calf is now greeting the bull. Look at that. And he's completely unfazed. Very docile, very gentle. Didn't try to butt it out of the way. Look at how mom is also now keeping a careful look at the bull, making sure that he doesn't try to do anything untoward to her little one. And those little warthogs still in the thick of things, in amongst these rhinos. Quite comical just to see those big ears and how they swivel around. Jenna, you saying that this is so sweet? It is. Little baby rhinos are terribly sweet little creatures. I mean, looking at what they turn into these great big hulking animals, which I suppose in themselves are pretty sweet too, but a little baby rhino is just so cute. The way that they kind of canter around and toddle around almost. I think we're going to spend a bit more time here with these rhinos, everyone. Like I said, I'm really keen to see if anything transpires here with this male being so close to the youngster and its mother. And we'll call you back as soon as if something does happen.
We have had quite a morning of it. The most exciting thing I found was not in fact this elephant, but a steaming pile of leopard scat. So steaming, in fact, when I put my hand over it, note not onto, but over, there was a sense of heat that my hand perceived. So excited I was. So much walking I did to see if I could find the leopard, but alas. I don't feel too bad because another two other people have been in the area trying as well. And many of you apparently sending your sympathies and condolences. These are not required. It's been a beautiful morning. I've had a lovely time walking through the trees, the dappled tambuti groves. I have no complaints whatsoever. And now we're sitting with a lovely elephant. And her tuskless calf, interestingly. I love that little footrest thing. A most gorgeous morning. And you can see that the elephant is filled with the same sense of peace, I think, that I am. Everyone is very chilled. I suppose our viewers in Dubai or the Middle East, where, the week is different from in the Western world, where we have a 7-day week, I'm interested to know if the sense of Sunday, which has no doubt been conditioned into me, is just a condition. So, obviously, as you grow up in the Western world, you have Monday to Friday at school, and then you have the weekend, and then Sunday is the kind of relaxed day where nobody does very much. And I still get that feeling, even though the days are completely the same every single day here. There's no weekend here in the bush. And I often wonder if it's a natural human rhythm, that sort of 7-day thing, or if people who, and I suspect this is probably true, if people who live in places like Dubai or the Middle East, where I think there's a day off on Friday, I don't know, if people from there don't feel that same sort of Sunday feeling I have on their day off on the Friday, even if they don't necessarily have it anymore, if you know what I mean. I'm pretty sure that it's just my body and psychology have been conditioned into it over years and years of going to school and that rhythm during my formative years. Anyway, there goes our elephant. Someone was asking if I've ever seen an elephant walking holding its tail with its trunk. No, I haven't seen that. Alison, I've never seen that, I'm afraid. I would imagine the elephant would bump into something if it walked carrying its tail in its trunk. It'd be quite a sight. You're all now worried about getting the Sunday blues. I must say that's one great blessing of living out here. I don't get any Sunday blues anymore. It was one of my worst feelings. I don't know, many of you might have an idea of this particular program. It's a South African thing called Carte Blanche, which plays at 7 o'clock and has done for the last goodness knows how many decades on South African television. And its theme tune, which goes something like this. That was a bad rendition of it. Immediately makes me feel the Sunday blues. A, because the subject matter in it is normally very depressing, and B, because it meant the weekend was truly over. Monday was on the way. We were going to have vegetable soup and have to do the homework we should have done on the Friday. But now I don't feel that anymore. Let's go back to Pind now, to where the rhino are also enjoying a peaceful Sunday breakfast.
They are looking very peaceful, and yes, they are enjoying their Sunday breakfast in the form of that lovely, lush green grass. And they've still just been feeding very peacefully, like we said. But while you were gone, there was an interesting little interaction between that female on the left and the male. Remember I said that with him being so close to her that he might be trying to see if she's almost ready to breed, and that if he did try to advance, she might take exception to that and behave aggressively towards him. And that's exactly what happened. There was a stage where he moved pretty close to her, and she turned around and she flattened her ears against the top of her head. She didn't often, when rhino cows do that, they'll often in accompaniment to that body language of her flattening her ears against her neck or her head, she'll make like a bellowing, growling sound. And fortunately for the bull, it didn't quite escalate to that. So she kind of, I suppose the human equivalent would have been kind of waving a warning finger towards him, just reminding him to stay back and keep away. And it's almost like whenever she looks at him, he puts his head down and carries on grazing. And whenever she looks away, he picks his head up and he looks in her direction to see if he can try and creep a little bit closer. And while all this is going on, he's going to be watching very carefully to see if she urinates or defecates. And if she does, he'll probably go straight over to that spot to smell her urine or smell her dung, because in her urine, in her dung, she might leave behind chemical traces that let him know about her reproductive status. But for the time being, he's keeping his distance. James Richard, you're asking if an old rhino bull will become nomadic when it gets past its prime, or if it will just move its territory or stay within its territory as best it can. James Richard, from what I've seen, they'll hang on to their territories until their last breath. And I don't know if you were watching a little while ago, I think both Jared and Clive filmed a very old, very kind of weak-looking black rhino bull, and he looks like he's on his way. Well, he looked like he was on his way out. At least he seemed to have been attacked by other black rhino bulls and pushed around quite a bit. So pretty severely injured and pretty old. But yet, while we were driving around in that area, we still found his scent marks all over the place, and we watched him trying to scent mark. We watched him both urinating and defecating, scraping his feet in the ground quite a bit. So, and he was still within his territory. So, James Richard, they'll hang on to their territories until the end. Yeah, quite a sad thing to think about. I mean, when they get to that ripe old age and the territory that they've fought so long and hard for, and they're like their last dying breath, they kind of go down with the ship, so to speak, as it gets taken over. Right, we're going to leave these rhinos and go and see what else we can find for you. In the meantime, we'll send you across to Mike at Pridelands to see what he's got for you.
And this is a beautiful waterhole scene. We have a nice big herd of impala. There was a couple of zebras that have just moved off screen right now. But you'll see how the males are interacting. There's a whole bunch of females there as well, and the males keep chasing them around. It's very windy, so they're very skittish and nervous. I mean, look at that. Every time one impala goes past another, there's a big jump and a run, and everyone looks around. You know, the wind really affects the way they can sense danger, so they're all very much on edge. But nonetheless, a beautiful scene with the Egyptian goose just swimming off calmly to the right, the impalas. There's some more impalas actually just to the right of us, and some more zebras. So a lot of animals coming down to the water. It is winter, so it's very dry everywhere else. So these waterholes, this is Leopard Dam, and it's one of the very few waterholes in this whole area. So these impalas are really, really enjoying that. They'll drink every day, twice a day actually if they can. See, look at that male, right in the center screen there, trying to herd his females and keep them where he can see them. It's not really working though, they don't seem to be paying much attention to him. Or maybe he just wanted them to give him some space so he could drink. And there you see those two Egyptian geese just swimming in the middle there. Amazing, these impalas will come down. Oh, you can see the zebra as well, just in the background through the trees. Amazing, the camouflage. You know, for an animal that's black and white with those stripes, you know, people often ask me when I'm guiding, how is it possible that they can hide from danger? Well, you can see right there through those trees, it really breaks their outline. And you can, if you weren't really paying attention and looking carefully like I am, you'd probably miss them if you were just driving past. So really, really important to have disruptive patterns, not being solid. Even the impalas, actually, their three-toned coat, you can see it's quite dark on their backs and then paler on their bellies, and that helps them to blend when the sun is shining right above them. Makes them a little bit more difficult to see. Oh, that male is really grumpy, isn't he? Keeps chasing all the females. He doesn't want anyone within 2 meters. Social distancing, very important, actually. He's sticking rigidly to the rules. Andrew, you're right. This is a beautiful scene. It's something that I personally love to do. Just sit at a waterhole, sometimes for hours and hours, and just watch the interactions of animals as they come down and do their thing. I mean, it's a time when animals are really feeling a little bit nervous at first, but when there's so many around, especially if it's not as windy as today, you'll find animals really get relaxed at the waterhole, because it's, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen The Jungle Book. There's this thing called the water truce. Obviously, that doesn't happen in real life, but there's always this idea that the waterhole is a sacred kind of place, you know, because water is so important. You get often when the giraffe comes down to drink, it's so tall and it can see everywhere around that the impalas then come down, and then the zebras, and then you'll get elephants, and all the animals seem to turn up at the same time. And that's purely because more eyes and ears to spot the danger, so they feel safer. It's always, always wonderful. And the bird life is always great as well. And if you can see the two Egyptian geese, and then there's one male impala walking past that I thought might have an oxpecker on its shoulder. I think it does, actually, the one right at the back there. It's got some probably red-billed oxpeckers, although it doesn't seem to be enjoying them very much. And the one right in the middle there got some oxpeckers as well. Luna's asked if impalas can swim, and they certainly can swim. I mean, they don't choose to do it for the enjoyment of being in the water, but when they're escaping from danger, I've seen many impalas, especially when they're being chased by something like African wild dogs. They often chase them towards waterholes. The impalas jump in, and they can swim like a doggy paddle type of thing across the water. It's not very elegant, but it's effective. I've seen them escape many times from dangerous situations. So Luna, that is a good question, and yes, they can. Most animals actually can swim to a degree, not very comfortably though. They wouldn't choose to be in the water. This particular waterhole we don't think has any crocodiles in it, but I'll tell you some advice. Don't ever go and swim in murky waters anywhere in Africa, because you just never know. And that is something that impalas often fall foul of, or any animals. They might be escaping from the wild dogs or cheetah or whatever, but when they jump in the water, there could be a crocodile waiting for them. Yeah. They all seem to be moving off now, dribs and drabs of them coming in. I still see a few wanting to come down and drink, but now once they've all drunk, they'll all move off together and start heading up to some place where they feel safe. They can eat some grass, some leaves, where it's hopefully a little bit more open. It's quite thick down at the edge of this waterhole, so they would only come down just to drink. All right, Dylan's got some meerkats, and he's enjoying them at the moment. Hopefully you will too.
So we still have 4 out, so there's still 2 that haven't come out yet, but they'll be around. One actually popped its head out earlier, so we know there's definitely 5 here. That's the little alpha that's walking towards camera, that's closest towards the camera there now. And they keep on watching something way in the distance there. There was 2 ostriches that went over the dune earlier, but I've lost sight of them. Okay, let's see. Let's see what's attracting their attention here. That one is looking at something. Okay, it's a hornbill that flew far away in the distance. That's the thing. Always watch animal behavior and try understand the environment from their perspective. I mean, that's obviously incredibly difficult to do. But when you see meerkats standing and staring at something, they're staring for a very, very good reason. And what those 2 are looking at, there's 2 hornbills that are flying around in the far distance now. And they're kind of like, well, is that a raptor, yes or no? So they're just making sure for themselves that they know what's going on. And the same that goes for anything out here. Just don't look at an animal and say, well, that's a springbok. Look at the behavior of the animal and try and interpret that. And you'll actually be amazed just how much more is revealed in the environment. Understanding bird sounds. Birds don't just sing because they're bored and have got nothing else to do. They sing for a particular reason. Whether it's territorial calls or alarm calls or Tiger Cub has asked a very, 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 very good and a leading question there in terms of, will other animals alarm call in order to steal meerkat's food? And there's the coolest bird. We get them here, and if we see one, we'll point it out to you. I haven't seen any actually staying in this particular area over here, but on Tswalu we got lots of them. It's called a fork-tailed drongo. A fork-tailed drongo, and you get a number of different drongo species in different areas. The one we get here is a singular species, the fork-tailed drongo. And they've actually picked up a really interesting habit where they've actually learned to associate, by watching meerkats, a call with a specific behavior. So what they'll do now, if a meerkat has a food item, these birds have twigged on that. If there's danger around, the sentry will give a specific alarm call, and then the meerkats drop whatever they've got. Like, that's how urgent these things are. Drop whatever they've got, run for the bolt holes, gone. Which means that the food item gets left lying wherever they left it. And then the drongo comes down, grabs the food item and flies off. Now, that is incredible behavior to see. I've personally never seen that, but there's a place just up the road here called Tswalu River Reserve where they've actually got people doing research on that very, very behavior. Oh, okay, we've got another good sighting at one of the other sites, but we'll be right back.
Well, just as we were about to leave the waterhole before, some elephants turned up, so we're just watching them now. It was quite funny. I was just saying to you all that, once one animal comes down to drink, they all seem to sense that it's safe and they come down to drink. So now we've got some elephants. It looks like just 2 or 3 that have come down. In fact, I only see 2, the one that we've got here and one off to the right, but beautiful. It's a bit cold for them. I was hoping they would go and actually swim in the water, but with this very chilly, strong wind blowing, I don't think they're going to do that. But of course, like the impalas, the elephants would like to drink once or twice a day. There's the other one just over there. What a... It's looking straight at us. Hey there. And you see, often they'll reach out with the trunk. Look at that trunk going right into the mouth. They can drink not directly from the trunk, but what they do is they pull water into the trunk like a straw, and then they squirt it into their mouth. And I watched an interesting video. People often ask me how much water can fit in an elephant's trunk, and it was quite interesting. I watched this video, and there was a 30-liter bucket of water, and the elephant sucked all of it into its trunk and then squirted it into its mouth. So I guess if it's a really, really big elephant, 30 liters can fit in there. It seems a bit crazy, but yeah, amazing. I usually say for an average size elephant, it's probably not more than about 10 liters. But still, imagine drinking 10 liters in one go, and this elephant will drink probably 10 or 12 trunkfuls before it moves off. And that's twice a day, hundreds and hundreds of liters of water. That's spectacular. Got to stay hydrated. Look what it's doing with the tip of its trunk there. Just feeling around, looking for the cleanest water. Often they'll... Elephants are awesome. Elephants are amazing to watch. They're just so... They think, always thinking about what they're doing. When you watch them, you see they literally just flick away with their trunk, trying to clean away any dirty stuff, and then they suck it up. I could watch these things for hours. In fact, I do watch them for hours. We're so lucky here at Pridelands, we've got a water hole right at our camp, and the elephants visit 2 or 3 times a day, and so we literally can watch them all day long. And sometimes there's these tiny little babies, and now with the water drying up, there's a lot of mud around the edges, and the babies often slip around and they slide and they get stuck in these little mud wallers. So it's really, really fun to watch them. See, this one here has found that little branch or something. It's busy wondering, what is this thing? It's in my way. Must I move it, or do I keep it there? Just resting my trunk. See, look. It does look like it's about to pull the plug. It was just looking like it was maybe going to walk into the water a little bit, but I don't know if you saw that. It just did that little flick with the end of its trunk to move away some leaf litter or some dirty stuff. So see that little flick there? Man, that's awesome. That trunk is so dexterous. I'm not sure exactly how many muscles are in that trunk, but it's certainly much more than we have in our entire body. And you think the human body is a pretty amazing thing. We have to learn how to walk and how to use our hands and use all those things. Imagine an elephant having to learn all those muscles. It must be quite difficult. That's why you see the baby elephants often so excited when they start using their trunk. So the elephants seem like... So it's 3 elephants I see. There's another one off to the left just behind. It hasn't come down to drink. And then the third one even further back, which was at the water's edge. So now they seem to be finishing their drink, or whatever the third one was doing, and now it's probably going to come and have a drink. Watch this interaction. Oh, look at that greeting. Eh? Often see elephants putting the trunks in the mouths of each other, which is quite interesting. So Butterfly has said that elephants are really interesting in how family oriented they are, and that's totally true. That's why I love to watch elephants, because you really can see the emotional connection between different individuals in a group, from mothers and youngsters to the mothers and the older males and the youngsters with each other, cousins. It's so awesome. Right, we're going to send you back over to Dylan and his family of meerkats.
So number 5 just keeps peeking his head out. He was actually standing up just now, then he went down again. The breeze is kind of like picking up, and it's still pretty cold. So I don't know how fast these meerkats are actually going to be leaving the burrow system this morning. And then those ones on the where Jandre is framed up now, you can see them doing a nice bit of burrow maintenance. This is going to be for these tiny little things. Now we've got to take bets as to what day they're going to come out on. I reckon like another 6 days. But we could be totally wrong. Remember the horses we've said before? On day 4. A good area and open here. It would be, I think, pretty difficult for a predator to approach this group unseen, unless it's something like a honey badger, which is that happens. So I think Jandre gave these meerkats fleas. Yeah, look there. Okay, we got. Rhino said they probably... Okay, something's happened here. And so Fern says they're probably digging a new games room for the kids. Okay, it's difficult to see, but there's a big group of birds flying in the distance there. Those are called crowned lapwings. And they've just kicked up a huge fuss. A huge fuss. And the moment they did that, the moment those birds started alarm calling, that entire group of meerkats just bolted underground, except for the one that just stayed up, kept watch. So that could actually just be a interaction between those birds themselves. It doesn't necessarily mean there was... But that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like these meerkats are so tuned into what's going on around them that a sound like that, we shouldn't just focus on the meerkats. Because if we hear something like that going on behind us, we should just check there and make sure that we're not missing something important. Those birds nest on the ground, so they're pretty much in the same boat as these meerkats, where if you get any kind of predator that comes along, there's a risk to the nest, although they're actually not nesting at the moment. So they finished nesting about 2 months ago, so there shouldn't be a big problem there. But even though it's so open here, I mean, you can get things like an African wildcat, a caracal. There's such a range of things that could sneak up on burrow systems like this. And those animals are not big, and they really... Kathy has just asked, will a meerkat ever go up a tree to get away from a predator? Why I think it's a good question is that their first defense is getting down a burrow. Because, whether it's a small bolt hole or a main burrow system like this, that is their primary refuge and their best chance of escaping a predator. However, if they are caught completely out in the open and they have no recourse, it is not impossible for a meerkat to actually climb up a tree to try to get away from it. The problem with that is that the kind of predators that they're up against, birds of prey, cats, things like that, 10 to 1, if it tries to climb a tree to get away from it, it's going to get eaten. So, as you can see, I don't know if Jandre, if you just want to scan around anywhere, any of these clumps of bush, doesn't make a difference which one, you'll see it's little thickets with these kind of scraggy little trees inside. So if in the absence of an actual bolt hole, the meerkat's probably best chance of surviving is actually just to disappear into any one of these thickets and try to escape a predator like that, rather than actually trying to climb up a tree. I think would be a sure way to, in a situation that you are going to get eaten. We're just going to sit here and see if they actually do go foraging this morning. The fact that they got in earlier yesterday may mean that they'll go out a little bit earlier this morning as well.
So we have left the pride of lions. They eventually settled down in a shady spot. It looks like they're going to be there for the day. We started driving slightly to the eastern side of the property. Check one of the water holes, see if there was any activity there. I'll send you over to James quickly.
We've just found this leopard. He's through the grass. The warthog screaming. Because I can't believe a female would take a warthog like this, but the ears look like Tundi's ears. I'm just going to move the car quickly so that Abel can get in here. Niels, can you see that? Absolutely astounding stuff. I found more leopard tracks. I was off the car listening. or looking, and there, suddenly we heard this horrible bellow from the warthog. What a stroke of luck. You can still hear the impala alarming in the background. Oh, here we go. It's a male. It's a male leopard. That must be Mulwati. Warthog is still alive. Definitely a male. Let me just move slightly. Absolutely incredible stuff. I'm guessing this is Mulwati the leopard, but I don't know for sure. All right there, Niels. Can you see, Abel? Wow, we found the male tracks and more Tundi tracks. And then when I heard this, I thought the male must have killed. Chrissy, you say this is amazing. It is for us. It's not for the warthog. For the warthog, it's deeply unpleasant. Let me just move again, Niels. I'm just going to see if we can get a better view from the other side here. I don't think the leopard is in any mood to let go, so I don't think we're going to disturb it. Naturally, there's a rock or a log or something in the way. I think that's probably the best we can do for now. Right, Niels? Right. No, you're in the wrong place.
Right.
Go to the right.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So if you are a sensitive viewer, I'm sorry about that. It's not a nice day for the warthog. But it's still fighting. No, Debbie, you'll probably find that the mass of the warthog is the same as the leopards. I don't think it's a very small warthog. He'll want desperately to keep it quiet now because that noise will have attracted hyenas as fast as it attracted us. And what's really nice for the leopard is that if he does succeed to kill it, there's a very nice big tree here. If this is Mulwati, who I think it is, however, we've never seen him hoist a kill before. Yeah. Christy said it has very light eyes, that's why you think it's Mulwati. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. Phew. Well, I think Niels and I were about to give up and starting to think about breakfast, and then this happened. Well, now, I know it's not the best view, but let's just wait and see what happens. Okay, well, a big male leopard will have no problem taking this warthog up a tree if that's what he decides to do. I wonder, however, if this leopard may not perhaps just pull it into the sort of secluded, shaded area in the drainage line. Because, like I say, and as Tristan pointed out many times, he said, we see his tracks all the time. We never find a kill from this cat in a tree. Well, Willow Wanderer, I suppose you might describe this as an awkward time for you to be eating a bacon sandwich. Yeah, I guess, look, it depends on your perspective. I tell you what, though, you know, and this is some of you may or may not feel this, but along the lines of what Willow Wanderer is saying is that, of course, the trauma that this warthog has experienced is probably quite similar to the trauma that the animals we eat experience. So we should probably bear that in mind. I am by no stretch of the imagination a vegetarian or a vegan, so I eat meat. But I always think it's probably a good idea just to bear it in mind when we watch something like this unfolding. I mean, you could walk past this, you wouldn't see a thing. Just come off Twin Dams, just follow my tracks in south of the drainage. Well, I think the fight has probably almost left the warthog, but you'll see that the leopard is taking no chances, and I suspect that the leopard is able to feel the fact that the warthog is still sort of tense and clenched. Sorry, Laurie, I'm going to ask for that question again. No, I don't think he'd lose his voice, Laurie, from a predator attacking him. You know, from the screaming. I mean, maybe eventually. I don't think this chap did. I think it was cut off by the teeth of that leopard. There we go. That's Mulwati, isn't it? He looks like a teddy, except when he's killing warthogs. So, chaps, Mulwati, warthog murderer of a Sunday. Well done, buddy. That's no mean feat. That's not a small warthog, I don't think. It's not huge, but it's not small. Now let's see if he takes it up that tree. There's a beautiful big marula tree close by. Now this cat is often nervous of vehicles, but because there are 3 vehicles here, but yet he still has a kill, he's obviously decided to tolerate us. Okay, let's see where he goes. He's coming towards us. We're just going to wait here. It's obviously a very heavy thing. And we want to move around as little as possible. Wow. Hey? No. Megan, I haven't had such good views of him either. You say he's gorgeous. Again, you'd be taking your life in your hands if you suggested he was anything else on the Twitter sphere. Mulwati. Cool, huh? Yeah. All right, I'm just going to move. You see what he's doing? He's doing exactly what I thought he'd do. He's taking it into a thicket. So I don't think that this is a cat that likes to hoist his kills. I think he's much more likely to just sit there in that incredibly dense thicket where he's nigh on invisible, and that'll probably be that. He's just in there, Niels, but I mean, there's no view of him. Yeah, and that's basically just pretty much confirming exactly what Tristan suspected, that he's not a cat that hoists his kills. Now, I'm not sure we're going to see him again, actually. I mean, certainly not better than we have. We'll do a full sort of 360 around the sighting. There's so many perfect marula trees here that he could go and stash it in, and we'd have beautiful views for days on end. But I don't think he's going to do that for us. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll just rest up a bit and decide that he can. Just showing Tristan that we're going to try and come back in. But I don't think Tristan's parked on this side of him. I don't think he can see him either. No, it's not risky for him to catch a big piece of prey. Look, I mean, a warthog can be dangerous to a leopard, for sure. But not one that size. It's not a huge warthog. It's smaller than I thought it was initially. Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get another view here, I'm afraid. What's Vaughan? Can you see him? Yeah, no, he's in there. He's just so deep in. Yeah, we heard him killing. We'll just try and go around, everyone, and have a quick look, but I don't think we're going to see him again. Not this way, we won't. All right, I think while we try and sort this out, let's go up to the Kalahari, find out what the meerkats are doing, probably being slightly more gentle than this leopard. This is where the warthog died, basically. It was caught in here, and I'll try and get a better view.
eastern side of their burrow system. There's still no huge rush for them to move out, but the little alpha female is off to the far right hand side of the frame. It's actually kind of approaching Gendre now. He'll move across to it now. She's actually coming nice and close to him. Wow. So that's her there. She's doing a lot of grooming on herself, which is quite interesting compared to the other meerkats. So I don't know what that's about, but it's just interesting to note. But they've moved across from the burrows where they came out, the burrow entrances where they came out, and it's about 12, 13 yards now that they've moved south-southeast. So I think they're probably going to go foraging in this direction. But this wind is still pretty cold, and there is a lot of movement. Now, from our angle where we're sitting up here, we're looking right over the tops of all this grass. But you know, if you're down at meerkat height, suddenly everything becomes a lot more obscure. Your field of view is a whole lot less. Yes, they are just adorable. Look at that. And that's probably 3 yards in front of Gendre now. Just so shows how nice and relaxed they're getting. I'm very interested in that. Like, I'm watching all the other meerkats closely. They're just out of the field of view now. But none of them are grooming themselves as much as that little adult female is. And I mean, I don't know what would trigger that. I mean, she's the only one of the pups, obviously. So maybe something to do with that. Steph has just asked, how fast do meerkats run? And he commented as well, saying, I can't imagine that they could run very fast. And yeah, you're quite right, Steph. They can't run very fast. Certainly, if you had to, and I'm not recommending it, don't try it at home, don't try it on any place you go to. But if you had to, try run after and try catch a meerkat, I think you'd battle to get it right. Number one, they're going to go down the nearest hole that they can find. But secondly, I mean, they also zigzag in that. So they're not particularly fast. They're not designed for running fast. But, you know, I guess they have enough of a turn of speed on them to get away from most things. But linking that onto the importance of these burrows and what we call bolt holes, when they're out in the field actually foraging, they try and maintain the system of bolt holes so that if danger threatens, they don't have a long way to run. And that's precisely because they can't run that fast. So they need these bolt holes. They are critically important for their survival. That meerkat is now 1 yard, just fraction. It is now exactly 1 yard in front of Gendre. Look at this. Oh my word, that's amazing. It's like, and you see, that is how amazing it is. Once you've spent that time habituating, putting the time and effort and energy into spending time with animals, look what you can get to. This is incredible. And the same with all our colleagues. I mean, that incredible kill that our colleagues have just seen with the leopard on the warthog, that habituation has been going on for years and years and years to get those animals to the point where you can follow them like that. Excuse me, where they're ignoring people, ignoring vehicles, and you can see this incredible natural behavior. Excuse me. Nancy just made a lovely comment there. She's saying she thinks a bolt hole is like a panic room. That's exactly what a bolt hole is. You don't use a bolt hole out here unless something big and scary with lots of sharp ends is chasing you. So yeah, a bolt hole is a panic room for sure. inflexible predation attempts on these meerkats? In other words, are they not deriving a benefit by having us sitting here and keeping predators away? So one of our meerkatters, Veronique, she's witnessed on a number of occasions attempts on these meerkats' lives from predators. So the fact that we're sitting here and the meerkats are becoming relaxed around us, it also quite conceivably means that any predators that are operating in this area over time have also become relaxed to the presence of people. It's just their very nature means that they've got to be well concealed and be good at concealing themselves. So in other words, in terms of camouflage and behavior, that's what they do. So, you know, as we're sitting here, yeah, there may well be an African wildcat stalking these meerkats. We don't know. Sorry, I didn't get that comment. Brent sent a comment through, but I couldn't hear it there. Apologies. Brent says they're like statues. Yeah, they are like statues. Yeah, the other meerkats are slowly starting to move in this direction. So I think they are going to go foraging soon. So we're just going to wait around for that.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Driving in the Timbamati riverbed, we have seen tracks of a female leopard on one of the roads not too far from here. So we are just checking the riverbed to see if this leopard hasn't crossed over here. It is nice and open, so if this leopard is still on the move now, we might be able to spot her from far. But other than that, there's a lot of other tracks in the riverbed of a lot of different animals. This is like a highway where animals cross over to and from the water hole. So we're gonna carry on up here for a while. Our pride of flyers will have them sleeping, so we're most likely to check up on them in the afternoon and see what they're gonna be up to. But in the meantime, while we search for this leopard, hopefully we'll come across anything else in the riverbed that might still be warming itself up, because it's still nice and it's getting nice and warm. So we haven't seen any other traces of this leopard since the last tracks on the road, so it could be anywhere to our right along this nice thick dense riverine area. As we cruise along in this nice sand dry riverbed, we are looking up in the trees underneath the bushes as we go along to see where this leopard might be. Beautiful jackalberry trees, perfect place for a leopard to go take a break there. If she was lucky enough maybe to have killed something overnight, maybe she will even take it up a tree and then those nice horizontal branches. But right now, so we're gonna carry on looking and see what we can get.
I'm afraid he and then he left it and he ran off into the drainage line. So everyone's left. We'll leave him be, limited to a one vehicle sighting, but you know I always said that there was it was a double-edged sword getting a new male leopard in here as Tingana reached his dotage, because Mulwati he's a lovely animal, but he's nervous, which means that, you know, our viewing of him is going to be, at the moment, certainly that much less, obvious is the wrong word. It's going to be that much less clear than it was with Tingana, who would completely ignore us. I mean, this is not to say Tingana has in some way shuffled off its mortal coil. I think he's just up to the north. But this was his haunt, and Mulwati's very clearly taken it over. And, you know, it's great that we got a new young male in. He's probably the father of Tandi's new male cub. But gosh, I do hope that he relaxes with vehicle, because it's going to make for a difficult time of it if he doesn't. He was totally fine there. I mean, I know we have seen him in the day before. Tristan saw him. Again, it was because he was focused on something else. There was a mating opportunity, I think, with Shidulu. He just had a fight with Hukumuri, so he was around, and there was something to distract him other than the vehicle. Same thing here as with the kill. And if he hadn't had that kill, yeah, we wouldn't have seen him. He'd just have melted away into the bushes. So I think he'll wait in the shade for a while for things to calm down there. We'll go back to his kill. I don't think he's going to pull it into a tree, but we'll go down this afternoon and have a look-see. And just to summarize, I mean, the way we found him was that I had found more Tandi tracks and his tracks. And I got out the car and I was walking around and trying to figure out where on earth these cats had gone. And we heard the squeal of the warthog. And so I left the other tracks, but it does mean that Tandi's still around here somewhere, which is great. Yeah, Deb, it was great to see him, wasn't it? That's definitely the first time I've seen a full frontal of him in the day. We got him at dusk, BK and I, once, just a very brief view before he really skedaddled. He ran from us. It's not like he hung around briefly, he ran. So maybe he's slowly starting to get used to the fact that people appreciate his presence and that we'd like to spend some time with him. Wasn't expecting that. Like I say, Niels and I were preparing to come back to camp and have some breakfast. Good. Let's go back to some slightly smaller and slightly less terrifying predators, certainly from the point of view of a warthog, with Dylan.
Yes, I'm so excited. We're going to be listening with half an ear to that incredible kill that that leopard had, that James got on that warthog. I mean, that's just that excitement, that raw energy, that power that goes into these things is just second to none. Eh? So these little meerkats somewhat probably less aggressive in their kill techniques than those leopards are, but nonetheless as effective. In fact, in many ways more effective than a leopard. This little one that we've got the camera trained on now, super actively foraging. It's actually digging right around the, remember that little plant is called an eland's bean? That's one of those big underground roots. It's foraging very, very actively around that rootstock over there. It may even pull out a grub or something. I'm still hoping that over the coming weeks we get some of them actually eating scorpions, because they are big and crunchy. Whoop, 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 something made them duck there. What was that? Just shows you never know what you're going to get, eh? But I think as this is just highlighted, you know, and also listening to the, because John and I, we can hear kind of what's going on some of the other drives and that, and just to see this incredible diversity that these places have got to offer. And it could just be a bird sitting peacefully in a tree, to a leopard kill, to the medicinal uses of a plant, to the geology of an area. It's all part of it. You know, and that's what makes it. It's not just about one species or one group of things. You know, it's this collective that adds the dynamic side to these ecosystems. And it's the inherent strength is the diversity in these systems. And it's just really fun and exciting for us to actually be able to try tease out all these little interactions. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. But the journey is what counts, and that's the fun part. You know, it's yeah. So we're just going to wait around, see what these meerkats do, and and please join us again this afternoon. It's such a pleasure having you with us, and we'll have another amazing afternoon. Thank you. Stay safe.